Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome into the NBA front office show. We've got a lot to break down. We couldn't wait till tonight. Too many big moves being made late in the night, early in the morning. The NBA, it never sleeps, and apparently I won't either. Joining me is Keith Smith. I'm Trevor Lade. Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, no props today or anything. I just too much going on. This stupidity will have to come naturally today.
You know it's coming. You know it's coming.
Yeah, somebody said I'm looking sharper. Got a haircut. No, I'm just not wearing a stupid bike helmet today or a celery cap. So, no, yeah, but I appreciate it. I'm trying to look
Yeah,
good for you.
there you go. Take the compliments, right?
Yeah, hey,
All right,
absolutely.
let's start with the big news from overnight. I think we have
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Paul George to the 76ers. Keith, I mean, we've literally been talking about Paul George to the Sixers for months. Not that we were predicting it, but just saying that it makes sense that it was a sensible landing spot should he decide to leave the Clippers, because the ability to team up with Joel Embiid, with Tyrese Maxey. It wasn't the only move the Sixers made, but let's focus on this to start. Officially leaving the Clippers, has joined the 76ers. What does this do for Philly in the power ranking of the Eastern Conference?
Before we get into the analysis, let's talk about. Were you still up when it came
I
out?
was.
So I went to bed at 3:00 Eastern. Like I was like, all right, things have settled. I was starting to get really tired at my desk. I had a few more cap sheets I wanted to update, and I said, I'm gonna call it a night. And I completely missed it. Like, did not hear the thing go off. Like, I must have been that tired. And then I woke up and I was like, wait, what happened? And I was like, what time? And I was like, I missed it by a half hour. So look at you, man, powering through. Good for you for still being up.
I was
All right.
I was still awake, and somehow, some way, I was still standing. And then, of course, more moves came early in the morning. That's the way it goes in NBA free agency.
Without a doubt. Yeah. So all right. So Paul George, I mean, it's if everything goes well, this is a perfect fit. Now you have the big wing
Mhm.
between the center and the point guard and Embiid and Maxey. You have a bunch of people who are going to fill out that roster. Kelly Oubre Jr. is coming back. Andre Drummond's coming in. Eric Gordon's going to be on the team. They're going to get more veterans that are going to join up. Probably resign a couple guys, maybe like Kyle Lowry and things like that. So, but it all keys off the big addition here with Paul George. We have talked for months. Do the 76ers go the spread around the cap space route? Do they go for a star? They went for the star in Paul George, and they've got enough room to still get some stuff done. So I think this is a really good addition for them. The only worry I have is the health issues with Embiid and
Sure.
George. Are they going to be there when it matters at the end? And that's what I worry about. So I am very high on this, though. I think he's a good off-ball player. He gives them another dynamic on-ball creator. I don't think the fit could be any better for as long as all the guys are healthy in Philly.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic fit. I believe there's a player option on the final year of the deal, which is interesting given what his age will be at the final year.
Sure.
It'll be what, 38, but still,
Even
you
if
had the
that's the that
opportunity.
he picks that up.
Yeah, I would have to imagine. But so you're Philly, you've got an opportunity to reward Joel Embiid for his patience, first of all, by agreeing that, hey, last season we're going to hoard some cap space, we're going to get ready for a big summer, and that might mean we don't quite go where we want to go during the season, and he had to be accepting of that. And now here they are, they get the big fish, the biggest name out there in free agency, they get the job done, they land him, and we're going to see them now fill in the pieces in the rest of the roster. But I mean, this is a big day for the 76ers, that their plan paid off, and they convinced Paul George to leave the Clippers. The Clippers would only go to 3 years. For whatever reason, I'm still surprised that the Clippers didn't give in and just give him the 4th year, whatever it was going to take in order to keep him. We could certainly talk about what this means for the Clippers moving forward. But now Paul George goes to Philly, and their plan of hoarding cap space in an NBA where right now you don't typically see too many superstars move via cap space anymore. A lot of it's done via trade. The 76ers went for it, and they got it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of old school free agency a little bit here, right? Where it used to be load up with cap space, go chase the star, and you build out your team that way. So I'm very curious to see the way they fill out. So far, so good, I think. we could just, I think, roll it all into this same conversation. Kelly Oubre Jr., the contract looks like it's for the room exception. It's going to be for the room exception amount, but this is all very flexible. They can kind of go in different ways with the way Philly can structure bringing in these deals. And there's paths and avenues to both that make sense, whether they re-sign Oubre with cap space or they give him the room exception. It really just depends. Here's the thing. Smart people in that front office, they will sequence and order these transactions in the way that makes the most sense. They got Andre Drummond, really good backup for Joel Embiid. We talked about that. I'm going to say yesterday, but it was really like 10 hours ago or so.
I know. It's all a blur.
So, but yeah, it was that was a good addition. We like the Eric Gordon addition for them. And then Tyrese Maxey gets the full max deal. I kind of thought with Tyrese Maxey, he might get a player option as like the thank you for delaying a year to sign this so that we could use cap space. He did not. No option on that. If it was an extension, that would be no surprise. Player options on rookie scale extensions are reserved for like all NBA level guys already. Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell each got one. They were the first ones to get one in a long time. They might be the last ones until the next guy is an established all NBA guy. When they sign that, Maxey is very good, but he's not at that level when he would have been signing that extension. So I kind of thought, though, hey, thanks for hanging out, like, and waiting a whole year to get paid and locking in your money, which has to be a stressful situation because there's nothing that says Philly couldn't have been like, nah, we're going a different way. But didn't get it. And that's even better for Philly because now you get the younger player locked in for the next 5 years in full. Great work for Philly. And I'm sure for Max, he's like, I'm good. Like, I don't really need the option. I'm happy here. I get to play with the big fella. I get to play with Paul George. And you know what? When those two guys are maybe aging out, moving on, now it's my team here in Philadelphia.
Yep, exactly. Maxey's in a good spot. As you said, they get Kelly Oubre Jr. They bring him back. Kyle Lowry, do you think he's coming back? Maybe he makes a leap to the Knicks, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, why would the Knicks need? God, they have Brunson and McBride, and they drafted Tyler Kolek. Like, I don't know. Maybe the Knicks are going to play like 28 point guards a day, but I don't. And Tibbs only plays 8.
The Villanova thing. Got to collect them all.
Yeah, but he's like he's like the Villanova grandpa for those guys. It's like, or at least their uncle. Like he's like walking in me like, back in my day, we played Penn at the Palestra, and they're like, okay, grandpa, thanks. We're gonna go hoop over here. Yeah, I think he stays in Philly. That's home too, right? Like that was such a big thing for him. Probably takes a minimum and just comes back and is either starts again or the backup for Lowry. So or Lowry, Maxey, I mean.
Right. All right. Let's. When's the free agency merch coming, Keith? The aprons and the caps.
We'll talk about that after the show.
This is a quick and easy one. Il Farkash said, "Can the team combine the mid-level exception with a player in a trade?"
Well, you take it.
No, you can't combine it. You can't take like a almost $13 million mid-level exception, add it to a player who makes say $10 million, and then go get a player who makes $23 million. Doesn't work that way.
Can't combine exceptions with other exceptions either, for what it's worth, in case anybody's wondering.
The exception to the exception. All right, so let's go here. The Thunder make a big move.
Hey, hold on. Our guy Bryce checking in. Bryce was on the road this morning, texting me at 6 a.m. He's like, why are you up already? Like, I just started watching the show you guys recorded last night. Bryce, I hope you're not still driving and watching and commenting on this driving. Hopefully you're stopped and settled somewhere.
Yes,
but thanks for checking in, Bryce.
Exactly.
Bryce already at work on Pistons off season, got some stuff going. We'll get into that in a minute, as well as prepping already for the 2025 NBA draft.
It never stops. It never stops. Another big move to come out this morning, Isaiah Hartenstein landing with the Thunder. Big deal. But when I saw it come through, I thought they're paying him so much that the structure of this, I bet the third year is going to be non-guaranteed or a team option or something like that, because They've got the contracts of Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, both. Those rookie deals will be coming up in a couple of years. So, indeed, that's the way they structured it. And so now you've got Isaiah Hartenstein. I think they overpaid him a little bit, but in order to have that flexibility in the third year, what would it come out on? 3 years, 87 million for
Yeah,
Hartenstein?
3 years, 87 million. It is there's been some reporting that has come on. I'm trying to find the tweet. It was Stephen Bondi, who
Yeah.
covers the Knicks, says the deal is front loaded and the final year will not be guaranteed. That is important to note in the context of this contract, because that final year, that third year for the Thunder, that's when all of the big money will be kicking in for Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams in the first year. Their extensions will be in there that season. So that's why you want to have a little bit of flexibility that year. If all right, we're starting to get a little over the top expensive, they can move on from that. They also have a team option for Lou Dort in that year. So a lot of flexibility for the Thunder, who very busy day for them. But starting with the big man, this gives them now optionality they did not have last season. They can now go big if they need to match up better with Denver or Minnesota. They can still play. It's so funny. I've seen people like, this ruins Chet Holmgren. He's such a matchup nightmare at the 5. Chet Holmgren's still going to be at the 5. Probably, I don't even think Hartenstein starts for the Thunder on a regular basis. I think they start the way they played last year with Holmgren, Williams, Dort, now Caruso, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But now you have Hartenstein, where if we're getting killed on the boards, or Jokic is destroying us in the paint, or Minnesota's beating us up inside, you just go to him and you play a little optionality. Holmgren's still going to play the 5. You just have lineup versatility you didn't have a year ago. Hartenstein, great defender, terrific rebounder, really good passer, nice touch in the middle of the paint. Is it an overpay? Sure. But their cap sheet was designed to afford a short overpay. We talked about this over and over and over again leading up to the start of free agency. This was the kind of move that they were going to make.
And you were going to have to overpay him to convince him to leave New York. I don't think he wanted to leave the Knicks. He liked the team there, liked his teammates, liked the vibe there, and all of that. But by paying him this much, a number that the Knicks couldn't touch, OKC made sure that they got a big who's a perfect fit for them. Man, the OKC offseason, maybe they didn't get the big splashy name like Paul George, but getting Alex Caruso, getting Isaiah Hartenstein, that's going to really pay dividends for them. So OKC gets it done. Really a 2-year deal, even though it's technically a 3-year. But I mean, we really look at this as probably a 2-year deal, and it's a good, great fit for them. So the Knicks will have to scramble and try to find a center, and that's one of the things I'm looking at right now in the market, Keith. The center market has shifted so much this year. Now you've got this drought of centers and so many teams that are looking for them. And now the Knicks joined that group looking for a center. I mean, we just saw what happened with, it was a smaller deal, but even Drew Eubanks was getting $5 million per year. It used to be, I mean, in years past, it's been, all right, there's like 15 guys you can grab for a veteran minimum, and they're all kind of roughly about the same, and they'll give you some backup big minutes, and you can get one of those anytime you want. The center market is not shaping up that way this time around.
Yeah, and the Knicks don't have a ton to offer to a center. Who I would like to see them go get, Goga Bitadze would be an outstanding
He's at the top of everybody's list right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, him and Xavier Tillman Sr. Those should be the two guys that teams who need a center. Those should be the two guys that everybody's kind of looking at. Somebody asked in the chat, Drew Eubanks went to the Utah Jazz. 2 years, $10 million. We'll get there. A little odd of a deal for the Jazz, but I think Utah's doing some stuff here. There's going to be more coming. Now, who really teams should be going after is Walker Kessler. If the Jazz are going to trade him, everybody should be all over it. The contract is very reasonable because he's still on his rookie deal. Let me pull it up to make sure I have the right number. It is this season, $2.9 million. Next year, the $4.9 million rookie scale last option year for him. So everybody should be trying to get in on Walker Kessler because everybody can trade for him at that number. So I would be all over that if I was any number of contending teams, especially if I was the team that added like an extra pick available. Like I'd give that pick up for Walker Kessler in a second.
Sure.
The reports out of we'll come back to OKC
Let's talk
I
about Utah
promise.
for a minute.
But let's talk about Utah because the reporting around Utah has been really interesting. There was a lot of rumors out there that they were going to try to go star hunting. Sounds like that's probably not happening. I wouldn't say it's completely out of the mix because there's still some stars potentially available. And I get it, I'm using the term star a little loosely, but guys like Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine, maybe DeMar DeRozan, they could still go that direction if they wanted to really do something like that. But there's also a lot of talk. We finished with it late last night that they may turn around and say, all right, you know what? Let's trade Lauri Markkanen. Let's move off with Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson. Let's really lean into this heavy into a year where we've got extra draft picks. This draft looks incredible. Let's go. So if they put it out there today, Lauri Markkanen's on the market,
And that
it's
seems
going
to
to
be what they're
be,
doing.
yeah, it's going to be an incredible Lauri Markkanen out there.
that kind of worked. That's close enough.
It was,
Marketing.
it wasn't my best.
That's okay. It's
leave it
early.
to
We're
you.
still tired.
Yeah.
So we moved Studio Stu here. So if Markkanen is indeed, and the rumor is that he may indeed be available on the market, Walker Kessler, another guy. Do you think that Eubanks has any bearing on whether or not Markkanen or Kessler could be on the move? Like I don't see him
Kessler,
as a replacement. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Kessler could be because he gives you a lot of what Kessler does. I think he does it worse than Kessler does, but he gives you a lot of that same production. He's a guy who runs the floor, plays around the basket on offense, and then blocks shots, protects the rim, and rebounds on defense. So Kessler's better and much younger. What is he? 5 years younger. So. But yeah, I think that could be the replacement there. And the good thing with Eubanks for $5 million over annual value over 2 years, he gives you a spot where you can kind of go in a position with him where if you keep Kessler, fine. You have Eubanks as some center depth. If you move on from Kessler, fine. If you're rebuilding, $5 million is fine. If you're contending, $5 million is fine for depth. So it's all around. These are the kind of moves that they're small, but they make sense if you go in different directions. We'll talk about another one like that at the center position with Jalen Smith in a little bit that I kind of liked.
Okay. Well, let's go. Was there anything you wanted to talk about with OKC before we move on?
Let's just do Isaiah Joe and can you pull their cap sheet up? Isaiah and Aaron Wiggins both re-signed. This is the OKC machine at work. Find an undervalued player, bring him in. That's the front office finds them. Player development staff coaches them up and gets them there. And then the team signs them to a team-friendly contract. I mean, these are two great deals for these guys. Wiggins makes the equivalent of the room exception for the next 5 years. And Joe is making less than the taxpayer or less than the non-taxpayer MLE, barely above the room exception for two rotation players. And this is, let me nerd out for a minute here, just our cap stuff. How this is going to actually come together, which allows them to front load the deal for Hartenstein. Joe and Wiggins are both on minimum cap holds. So what they'll do is they'll let those cap holds sit there. They'll sign Hartenstein to use up the cap space. Then they'll re-sign Joe and Wiggins. They probably, even with Wiggins, this is getting super nerdy, but what they'll do is they will likely rescind his qualifying offer to lower his cap hold by another couple $100,000 that then they can throw into the Hartenstein deal, and then they'll re-sign Wiggins off of the minimum contract. You could do that with a restricted free agent once you have an agreement in place, because now you have no worry about losing the player. So, so that's the important thing there. But man, that's a gorgeous cap sheet there, because there's the long-term money is where it needs to be, and Shea gives us Alexander, and every other piece of long-term money is a less than average salary deal. All of these deals are checking in at 5-7% of the salary cap, going out further. Now they'll load up with Holmgren and with Jalen Williams in a couple years, but that's a couple years away.
I mean, you've got Sam Presti doing some work here. You look at the situation OKC is in. They've got future picks too. They've got a lot of flexibility here, and they're the team that as this roster gets more expensive, they're going to be able to replace guys by bringing in younger players on cheaper contracts because they have so much future draft capital, and they already have a team that, again, was the 1 seed in the West last year. They've addressed two of their biggest weaknesses, particularly by adding a big and Isaiah Hartenstein, but then you add Alex Caruso as well. This team should be putting a little bit of fear into the rest of the Western Conference right now.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. People keep asking about Steven Adams. I've seen this question asked a
Yeah,
lot.
this has come up.
Lakers fans are asking about him. He's not a free
Everybody's
agent.
been asking.
He got traded to the Rockets. That was a move at the trade deadline that I think a lot of people just kind of skipped past because it was two guys who were out for the season got traded for each other. The Rockets traded for Steven Adams with the idea of now we have a backup for Alperen Şengün that we can just plug him in there for 15 minutes a night and go forward. I'm not saying he's not available. He could very well be. I think the Rockets would move him, but they did bring him in. I just don't think I don't think that's going to be the way it goes.
Yeah. I mean, they traded for him for a reason.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to Tobias Harris. Back to Detroit. Got a $52 million deal, 2 years. This you put out there on X that you didn't think that this was people would make too much of this about how much. I mean, they've got to spend the money on somebody. Curious what Detroit's doing here, though. Tobias being a veteran guy coming in, certainly not a young player that's going to help you out a lot in a rebuild situation. Is he, the veteran in the locker room and the guy that's going to help bring them back to respectability this year? If they eventually get that Cade Cunningham deal done, then you've got him running out there with Cade. Is that the method to the madness here?
Yeah, I think the idea is we have to spend money somewhere and we have to get better, if not record-wise, just as a functional basketball team. And this will help with that. They don't really have anybody at the 4. So it's not like he's coming in and taking real minutes away from another player. It's that Ron Holland will still get his minutes. He's going to be more on the wing. So I don't think this is a bad deal. Now, a lot of people have reacted to the report. I believe it came out from The Athletic that there's no options in this deal. No options doesn't mean the second year is fully guaranteed. So I want to be very clear about that. The term option gets used the same with a team option and a non-guaranteed year. They're not the same. And often teams will say, yeah, there's no options because there isn't an option. That doesn't mean there's it doesn't mean that maybe that second year doesn't still have some form of protection, but this is fine. Like I'm not going to get too worked up over it because I don't think the Pistons are in a place where everybody's now screaming about they should have eaten the Zach LaVine contract. They were trying to give it away with picks. We don't know that that's true because people from Chicago reported the Bulls never were willing to attach a pick to LaVine. That was something that they said was not a thing. So who really knows with that? So I'm not really all that stressed out about this one. With that, you have to spend the money on somebody. Tobias Harris, I think, will help them, and it's short enough that they can move away from this contract if they need to with relative ease.
Yeah, I mean that's the key here. And that's, I think, what we're seeing teams prioritize under the new CBA. It's not so much the dollars, it's the years. It's having that future flexibility by having shorter term contracts on their books.
Yep. That's a big part of it. So I don't want to get too crazy with calling this a terrible deal until we fully know what the details are. I would have liked it if there was a team option on that second year, but if it's only partially guaranteed, then fine. If it's fully guaranteed over 2 years, that second year could get a little weird. But I don't think Detroit's going to be in the position where they're contending next year anyway.
Right. Okay, let's look here. Who I know there's some that I'm forgetting. Oh, Jalen Smith. That was the other one that we need to get to.
The Bulls.
With the Bulls, 3 years, $27 million. What are your thoughts here, and what does this mean for the Bulls roster moving forward? Does this mean moves are coming here for Chicago, or did he just slot in as the Andre Drummond replacement?
Yeah, this was the other one I was talking about when teams can make a move where this fits kind of direction independent. It comes in where, all right, if we're going for it and we're trying to be a playoff team, fine, good backup, good solid value for Jalen Smith, 4-5, can really play. If it turns into we're rebuilding, he's young enough to fit with a rebuilding team. He's only 24 years old. Jalen Smith is, so really can fit with a rebuilding team. Here, it's $9 million a year, average annual value. He shot 42% from three last year
Mm-hmm.
on fairly decent volume in on a team where his role was inconsistent as the year went along because Indiana leaned more towards Isaiah Jackson when Miles Turner was out of games and on the bench in games because I think Jackson gave them a different look from what Smith was. He's very, very similar to Turner in the way they play. So this is one of my favorite value signings so far in
Sure.
free agency because I just $9 million. I mean, again, we're talking room exception money. This is really good deal I think for Chicago. And you know what? I feel happy to say that too because we haven't been super
We have
positive
not been
about the
kind to
Bulls.
Chicago.
Yeah, so it feels good to give them a win.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is still a young player, and there's definitely some upside here for the Bulls with that one. I guess we had a few smaller deals. Luka Garza back to the Wolves. Looks like that's a 2-year contract. Looks like that's a minimum deal to stick with the Wolves, just to be kind of a fourth big for them. So that's fine. Keith, we're at it again here, though. We've got the same problem as we experienced with your Celtics. The Blazers
Well,
just
it's a
being mean.
two-way deal.
They're not paying Justin Minaya $0 coming his way.
Yep.
That's just mean.
Hey man, people say all the time, "I love this game. I'll play for free. Why not test it? Why not find
There it
out?"
is.
Right? No, his is a two-way deal, so that's why there's nothing attached. It'll get updated when we get there with that. But yeah. We had some like we kind of talked about earlier, the veteran center market really kind of dried up very quickly. To your point, we often see that one kind of drag out for a while, and it's like, yeah, there's always somebody. There's always somebody. May not always be somebody here for the next little bit. Can you scroll back up because this kind of hit me at like 2:30 in the morning. Go up to Chris Paul. There he is, 11 million, right there, smack in the middle of the page. So here's what struck me late last night, early morning before I went to bed. We talked about like all the fit on the court and all the things we like. If the Spurs hit the trade deadline and we're like, all right, Chris Paul did great for us. We loved having him. But now he wants to finish the year with a contender. Super tradable contract at $11 million. Also fits into the MLE amount, which can now be used as a trade exception if teams don't use it another way. So that's also a factor. Here's the other thing that didn't hit me at the time until I was like, oh man, I wish I'd thought of that on the show. He makes less than the non-taxpayer MLE. So if he takes a buyout, he can sign with anybody. He could sign with any contender. So that's big for Chris Paul to kind of have that flexibility in his contract there with the Spurs. And I'm not saying the Spurs are going to do any of that. I don't know that they signed him with the intention of those being the things, but I do think the intention in the signing or agreement was we want to have this be in a position where these things, if we get there, this is all possible for us. I think that's why it's not 13 million or something like that, which it could have been. All indications are too, again, even more so this morning, this will probably come out of the Spurs non-taxpayer MLE. Spurs sound like they're staying over the cap for this summer. Still lots could change, right? I mean, we're only, what are we, 18 hours into free agency here. So that lot could change with this, but that sounds like that's kind of where they're at.
That makes sense. Okay. So I think it's a good deal for, again, it's the years, not the dollars. 11 million for Chris Paul may sound like a lot when people talked about him as a veteran minimum guy, and good on CP3 for getting the money, but it's only a 1-year deal. So it's not a big deal for San Antonio. Use him as a veteran in the locker room, use him to teach the younger players a little bit, throw a few lobs to Wemby, and maybe by next spring, he's jumping on with a contender somewhere and trying to make a playoff push. Makes a lot of sense all around in terms of how this works out for all parties.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, I think this is just smart business, and you always want to leave yourself with options, and that's what Chris Paul kind of did by saying, "Hey, I'll take this." And it's kind of funny. We talked about it. They are right at right at 400 million in career earnings for Chris Paul.
Oh,
So certainly what wasn't necessarily about the money. I think this was a thing. I've seen this one come up quite a bit. I know we'll get into the super chats here, but I just want to
yeah.
address this one. Sadiq Bey may not play this season. And if he does, it's going to be very late in the year when he plays. He tore his ACL last year. Let me get the exact dates. He not saying he won't be a steal because he may very well be, but I don't think anybody is going to be getting Sadiq Bey with the idea of, all right, we got him now. We're ready to go. Let me make sure on the date I'm on this because I want to say it was in like March. Yeah, middle of March. So you're talking maybe he gets back late March there. So we'll see.
Mm. Okay. Well,
Good player, but just I don't want people to be like looking at the list of available free agents, like Sadiq Bey, what are we doing here? Because
right.
there's a reason why
That's
he's out there. So we'll see.
because that's what people would be doing. Okay. Let's get into some of our super chats, and in lieu of any breaking news or anything, we'll get through some super chats, and then we'll call it
But he
good here.
must be
But
eating lunch because on the East Coast, because it's gotten a little quiet. It's like
yeah.
trade deadline day, right? Like everybody breaks for lunch, and then
well, you knew there was a domino to fall here with Clay and that, or with Paul George, and that would open things up. Another domino, though, is the Klay Thompson situation.
Yeah,
I do wonder, like DeMar DeRozan is kind of the other one that's out there. We'll see what happens with him, and that may require. There were questions about, is it Paul George goes somewhere and that opens up the DeMar DeRozan move, or is it a Klay Thompson move that opens up the DeMar DeRozan move? So we'll see exactly what happens there. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously more coming.
Yeah, those are like the two next. Like they're like slightly smaller dominoes than the Paul George one, but those ones have to tip to get the rest of things moving. But it's funny. I was going through it because people are like, so free agency's done, huh? Everybody left stinks. There's a lot of good players left. Like guys who are going to play real roles on contending teams. No, but again, the phrase I like to use is probably not running out and buying a jersey, but like these guys are going to be good players. Like Gary Trent Jr. is still out there for a team. Maybe Tyus Jones is still out there. So we could do that a little later, but just a thought process out there.
All right. Can the Lakers sign and trade for Clay and still be able to trade Jeremy Grant? Trade for Jeremy Grant. I mean, it depends on what you give up for Clay, but in theory, sure, you could make the math work on something like that.
Yeah. The big thing for sign and trade is, again, same as using the non-taxpayer MLE, either one, hard caps you at the first apron, and then you just got to fit everything in under there. So, I mean, yeah, certainly possible. It's not. Now, here's the problem, though. Signing and trading for Clay at a reasonable salary, let's call it like $16 million, that's probably going to use up one of the assets you would want to put into a trade for Jeremy Grant. And you will eventually run out of players just to put together in trade packages.
Yep. And that's where they really like Clay for the mid-level exception. Yeah, no problem. If suddenly you got to pay him, like, who knows? What if it gets up to 25 million or something like that to get, then you start going, okay, that's not as fun.
That's when I walk away and say, hey, Gary Trent Jr., you want to come for $12 million? Like, where are we going? I kind of think too what may happen with a couple of those guys. You may have like a Gary Trent Jr. be like, fine, I'll sign for 1 year on the mid-level because there's nothing worth locking in long term. Somewhere I'll sign, get out on the market and get back out there a year from now.
All right, let's go here. Is Denver a dark horse to sign Clay? I mean, it doesn't seem like it. We haven't heard them connected to Clay at all.
I think Stein might have had Denver as a team that might
maybe I missed it in the whirlwind.
Yeah, it was like in the whole like if they lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope stuff that came out shortly before free agency opened. But yeah, I mean, for them, their challenge is it would have to be a sign and trade because they can only offer the taxpayer MLE, and that gets really tight around the apron for Denver to make work. So, but maybe.
Isham said Klay Thompson picking between Dallas and LA reminds me of Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, just a much lower version of that. Lakers waiting on
staking out restaurants, hoping to get a glimpse of him eating chicken tenders or whatever.
think it will be who can give him the most. Maybe. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Keith, I said there was a 43% chance Clay winds up with the Lakers because 43 was his dad's Lakers number.
Got it. All
Um,
right. I was gonna say that's a pretty random number to pick out. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it sounds weird to say it this way because I'm gonna anger both teams fans probably. Two teams that are in pretty similar places, right? Like I
sure.
don't think anybody feels like these are the absolute favorites. That's probably insulting to the Mavericks. They did make the finals
No,
last
but look
year,
what OKC's
but
done.
exactly. Yeah. OKC, Denver's not going away just because they lost KCP, and Minnesota's still there. It's tough to be that team. Memphis has done some stuff. I think as far as drafting Zach Edey's going to help them. So yeah, it's but just he's I don't know what he's going to choose. Like I don't know what will ultimately be what he's picking here to between because the money's probably going to be pretty close to the same. So, what like is it role? Is it where he wants to
Hmm.
play? Is he like I've lived in California my entire professional career? I want to go live in Texas. I really don't know. I don't know what to make of this. I saw some people say, well, he's going to pick Texas because of
To
there's
taxes.
no taxes and all that stuff. That doesn't matter as much to players as people. That became like a thing when like the Magic were going after Duncan, Hill, and
Yeah.
McGrady, and then it just
Hmm.
continued and continued, and it's just not quite the impact people think it is.
All right. David, can the Knicks afford Kessler or Markkinen?
Well, we went two kind of pretty big extremes there. Kessler, yeah, easy. We talked about it. He
Sure.
only makes under 3 million, so that's simple, get it done. Yeah, they could get Markin in. I mean, the Bridges trade is not done officially, like it's done. He's going to New York, but it hasn't been worked out yet. So they may kind of come into a world where it is like, hey, let's expand this. And Utah's just kind of until they do something, they're just kind of hanging out there, right? What do we got here? Okay, we don't need to push the button. DeLon Wright is going to the Milwaukee Bucks, 1 year, 3.3 million. So that'll be a veteran
Okay.
minimum signing.
Yep.
Good backup guard depth. They didn't have their backup point guard was a problem for the Bucks for a lot of last season. And DeLon Wright, that's a nice addition for Milwaukee on the minimum behind Dame. So yeah, I think that's good.
All right. What do you think the Knicks will do for a center? There's like 5, 6, 7 teams that were saying the same thing. What are they going to do for a center at
Yeah.
this point? Yeah, I'm making the call on Walker Kessler. Probably you're
Batadze,
making sure.
Tillman.
Yeah, Goga. But again, there's 5, 6, 7 teams that all are probably circling Goga. There's a few other names out there, but there's
Yep.
not a lot of really inspiring players out there on the market. If I had a center that I wasn't particularly attached to, like if I'm Portland right now, I'm smiling about about Robert Williams
Yep.
and seeing who comes
Maybe
calling.
even DeAndre Ayton if somebody wants to go
Sure.
like bigger salary. They're 8-2. So we get 2 years left on that contract. This is not like trading from a year ago. Like you get him this year and then next year it's an expiring. That does change the math a little bit on how much you're willing to take him on with that. But yeah, Rob Williams, yeah, everybody, every contender that needs a big should be reaching out to Portland, just saying, hey, what are you thinking on him?
Yeah.
Because in the number, he's like 13 million. So that should be pretty easy to get to. So I kind of like that. I kind of like that pick up there. So I think that's good. I think that's fine. I think that would be a good direction to go. Would be him. But yeah, man, if you've got a center, you're sitting in a spot right now where it's kind of like who wants to pay us for this guy? A
Yep.
couple people have asked me on social media, and it came in the chat. Somebody said, "Why do you keep skipping over Mo Wagner?" I just assume he's returning to Orlando. I think
Right.
that was
We've been
we're
talking about
opting
that.
you out to use cap space, but we're going to bring you back, whether it's via cap space or the room exception or whatever. I think he will be back.
Yeah, and he'll probably get him right about the same money. Special case of D'Lo, Rui, and a first for Clay and Looney. Get your center and shooter, 2 things we need. Still have the MLE to use as well.
I read that very quickly, and he misspelled center, and I thought he misspelled Cantor, and I was like, no,
You're
like
thinking
nobody
Ennis
needs
Cantor.
that. Like, that's crazy. Like I was like, no, that's not a thing. If people needed more of a reason to root against the Lakers, if you're not a Laker fan, that would do it. That'd unite large chunks of the country. I don't know, it would get large chunks of the country behind him too, probably. So
Probably.
yeah, I don't think the Warriors do that. I would not be giving up a first either if I'm the Lake. Don't you have limited
Yeah.
draft capital? That's not the way. Right? Especially you can pivot to other good options if you don't get Clay. There are
Right.
good players still available that will fill a very similar role.
Studio Stu is very much wanting to get. My daughter brought in a little bracelet here, and Stu wants
Oh,
it. he
yeah.
he wants to get this thing.
And wants to destroy it, right? Because
He
that's what
wants
they
to
do.
destroy it. Yes, yes, he
Exactly.
is the destroyer of worlds and
Yep.
children's toys. The Nets would love a reunion with D'Lo on an expiring contract.
Mhm.
Would Dorian Finney-Smith or
Sure.
Cam be a better fit into LA? Well, ignoring the Nets and D'Lo, Nets would love D'Lo part. Who knows? Maybe they like an expiring contract.
Yeah.
If the price is the same for the two in terms of what you have to give up to get them, I would take Cam Johnson
Yeah.
over
Yeah. Agreed.
Dorian
Yep.
Finney-Smith. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if it was the Lakers specifically. Give me Cam Johnson because
yeah,
he gives you better shooting, better scoring, better floor spacing. And if you're in this scenario, if you're keeping Rui and DFS start to be a little overlappy for me. You don't
yes,
really need both of them, plus LeBron, plus you'd be bringing in Connect. Like that starts to be a lot of guys who do a lot of similar stuff. I do think I kind of wonder if the Lakers pivot towards a more reliable big. I don't think the wing need is quite as huge as everybody's making it out to be. Like I get it, if you can get a good wing, go do it. But I don't know. I think they've got a couple options there that they like and ways they've done things. But maybe if like Clay comes off the board and they're like, all right, we don't really love any other wing options, maybe they pivot to getting a better big to come
sure.
in. But as we've talked about in the past, you don't want to invest too much into a real center because then that pushes everybody else down in position. That's probably not good for you in the long run.
Exactly. You need somebody who can be either an off the bench guy or a spot starter if the situation calls for it, or at least a heavy minutes guy if the situation calls for it. But if he doesn't play much on a night when you're playing the Warriors or something and they're playing small, it's not a big deal. It's not like you've got 30 million bucks sitting on your bench or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think in general, when I look at the wing position, they kind of need to take Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt and find a way to smush them into one player. You know,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
that's
a
what
great point.
what they need, and maybe that's a Jeremy Grant or whoever. They also need to free up some roster spots. I mean, Torian Prince specifically told me he does not want to leave LA and he wants to come back. Maybe there's something there they work out if ultimately their quest for another wing they don't find that.
And you want to be very careful too. I don't know because right, we did all the math out the other day, and it's changed slightly with like Max Christie being in the fold and some other stuff. But like we did all the math going right to the first apron. Teams are pretty hesitant to go right to the marker
Right.
because if you have something happen and you need to, I'm just making it up, but like, man, we had an injury and we need a point guard, and there's point guard X is sitting out there available. Or we can waive Maxwell Lewis. I'm only picking on him because he's like the lowest salary on the books, but we can waive him and bring in, a veteran point guard here. That you're still going to have to eat Maxwell Lewis's contract, so that turns into, all right, we need to have a little bit of room underneath the apron to make that kind of move, and that was just complete scenario throwing it out there, but you want to be a little careful with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. G Mercado, Trevin, a vacuum, Clay, DeRozan, Jeremy Grant. So no contracts, anything else involved, just which player do you want? I think I'd actually put Jeremy Grant at the top in terms of who gives you the most right now, although it's close with Clay. And I'm looking at fit specifically with the Lakers. I'm assuming that's what you're asking here. And then DeRozan fit wise at the bottom, but you could also argue if we're talking in a vacuum, forget fit. DeRozan gives you a lot on the floor. He's still a really good player. So they're all really close. And I think this is where you just say, hey, whoever we can ultimately get, you be happy with it and move forward.
Yeah, I would. You didn't ask me, but you're going to get my answer anyway, too.
No, I assumed.
I think Clay is just the best fit for what the roster needs. Plus, Clay is a guy who is I mean, what was that? What's that ridiculous game where he scored 30 something points with like 6 dribbles? Like
Yeah,
Grant and DeRozan are on ball dependent players. There's only so many reps to go around right now.
that's
Like
fair.
it's if we were talking from scratch right now, give me DeMar DeRozan. I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
like let's go. Like if you're a team that needs to build up, but yeah, I would go with Clay.
All right, let's any superstar NBA Africa players being added to any teams.
Not
You would know
yet,
more about that.
but it's coming. Like, and when I say it's coming, like in the next 2 to 3 years, what's happening is so there's kid coming out. He's going to Duke. Kamon Mawak is going to Duke. He is going to be really, really good. And he came out of the NBA Africa system, so it's coming. The direct NBA Africa to the NBA, probably not for at least a little while longer. They need to establish, but every single GM, front office person, scout, coach will tell you there is so much talent on the continent of Africa that is just it's super raw and undeveloped. And that's why the NBA is investing so heavily in Africa right now with the NBA Africa League, with a lot of their development academies and those kind of things. It's coming within a decade. We're going to regularly see a pipeline to it, maybe initially to U.S. colleges and universities, which honestly, a lot of these kids and their families want for them too, is to go get that experience. But it's coming. We're going to start seeing a better direct pipeline to the NBA. It's not going to be the once every half decade somebody pops up like it was for most of my time as a basketball fan. It's going to start coming in bigger chunks and bigger waves.
All right, let's go here. Is Jakob Pertl available? If so, what might a Lakers deal for him look like? I don't know what that looks like for Toronto right now. If they're ready to move on or not.
Yeah,
They
I mean they're in a
did.
little bit of a weird spot because I think Toronto's just kind of
They're in between.
bad way, but they're just kind of doing it on the fly
Yeah.
right now a little. So maybe. I mean, they do have Kelly Olynyk there, who they extended. They drafted Jacoby Walter, so there's not a first round pick coming in that plays the same spot. So, yeah, I mean, I would say Pirtle's available in the right kind of deal for the Lakers. Matching salary is pretty easy because he only makes like 19 million, but it's that's the fit part of it again. Like I don't know how much I love him coming in as your starting five
Night in, night out.
yeah, most of this comes down to we talked about this a long time ago. Comes down to LeBron as a 4 now. Like that's the part where it gets a little harder. Like AD can play the 4. I wouldn't worry about that. You play him next to the 5. Just don't know about putting LeBron at the 3 for long stretches in games. Now, if it's like, hey, our 3 big rotation is AD, LeBron, and a 4/5. Okay, sure. Why not? I guess that's workable. Pirtle's a little bit of a weird fit for me. There's other guys I would like better.
Sure. Jeremy said, can Lowry play the 3 or more slated at the 4?
Either one.
I mean, he could do either.
Yeah. Yep.
Do either. I mean, I remember there was a big experiment, like a surprising experiment from the Cavs a few years back when they ran that supersized lineup with him at the 3, but it wasn't
the Jazz
the
did
worst.
It too a little bit.
He can really play either.
Yeah, he's good. I don't hate on everything Lakers. I hate the Lakers, yes, but I don't hate on anything. When I analyze the roster, I try to do it from a fairly unbiased position, and I think I do okay. I mean, I just wouldn't like Pirtle for them. I just don't think that's a great.
You're echoing the same thing that I've been saying for months now about getting, because the issue is there's a segment of the fan base that adamantly believes that Anthony Davis should play 0 minutes at center, should only play power forward, and that's what happened in 2019-2020, which it's not. And that's how they need to proceed forward. So they have to get a all-star level starter every night center. That's not how I see things, and I think that's not how you see things as well. But there is a decent segment of the fan base that is hoping that's what they do, that they shift him permanently, because they remember that Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee were on the team, and AD spent 40% of his minutes that season at center. He still played center a pretty good chunk of time. Yeah, he's gonna play there quite a bit. But anyway,
and you want him to, because it's kind of if we go all the way back to the Chet Holmgren thing, that's what makes AD a matchup nightmare. is he's really hard to guard at center because of all the different things he can do. And even different than some of the floor spacing centers like Miles Turner and Brook Lopez, AD can put the ball on the floor and blow by guys, which is completely a different element than a lot of these other guys bring. That's why
Yeah.
you don't want to put him at the 4 because he just becomes an easier to guard player, because a lot of teams have 4s who can stay in front of him, contest him, and do those things. At the 5, he's an absolute nightmare to guard for almost any 5 in the league.
Yeah, then that's it. Now he has some trouble with some of the bigger 5s backing him down and things like that, and that's where you need a big physical presence next to him. But you just need that option. Doesn't have to be a night in, night out starter.
Exactly. That's not spend all your cap space on that. That is
Right.
that's a go get Goga Batadze and give yourself
Sure.
somebody like him who can do the dirty work. Or even Xavier Tillman would be really good for the Lakers, as he's a little undersized as far as height goes, but he's rugged, he's tough, he'll bang, he'll do all the dirty work. So yeah, you need to add that kind of option. But yeah, I just would not spend my flexibility as limited as it is for the Lakers on trying to fill in a spot where you're talking 10, 15 minute a night player on most nights. It's just not where I go.
Hearing anything on the Grizzlies? I mean, they made a decision on that Luke Kennard contract, but otherwise they've got a pretty full roster.
That's the challenge.
That's the challenge for them. It's the roster is full. But overall, it's been pretty quiet on the Grizzlies front. I mean, maybe they solved their center problem when they drafted Zach Edey. So other than that, I mean, the Grizzlies are in pretty good shape. They could be a consolidation team that tries to stack together a few contracts and do something, but that may be something that materializes once we settle in a bit here. Once the top guys start coming off the board, teams start looking towards the trade front, those opportunities may materialize at that point. And that could be later on today, that could be tomorrow, but I don't think they're not going to go after like a big time free agent given the way their roster looks right now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I just looked it up. They only really have 2 open roster spots as it stands right now once you bring in Edey. And they said they would like to maybe bring back Luke Kennard. Now, their other problem is only about $7 million under the luxury tax line. They really don't want to go into the tax yet, because this is a team that's only starting to get really expensive over the next few years. That's going to be even more so. So, yeah, if they make a consolidation trade a couple guys. I've heard guys like Zaire Williams is super available, but that's more of a rebuilding team. Maybe looks around and says, all right, we'll take Zaire Williams. Like, so if Detroit in a couple of days is like, we're kind of out of like where we wanted to go, with eating contracts and all that, we'll take a flyer on Zaire Williams, let you open up a roster spot. We'll do that. But yeah, pretty quiet for Memphis. I think they're more focused on let's get Edey in the fold and let's get healthy and have a normal season again, because last year was such a tire fire.
Keith, what can the Knicks do that will scare you on beating your Celtics?
Get a better
another big
another big. Yep, that's exactly it. Because I just don't trust Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy. So that's really it. One more big in there, and then I just don't know that their offense can match Boston's. That's, I think, the challenge is the Celtics' big thing is when Porzingis is healthy, they can put 6 guys on the floor that can all dribble, pass, and shoot. And the Knicks could, if they wanted to play Randall there, but Anunoby's more like a one dribble player. I've talked about Mikal Bridges in the past, where I think the more you put on him, the less I kind of like him as an offensive option. But yeah, I mean, and the Knicks aren't done. They've got $30 million in Julius Randle, where that's a guy they might want to move if they wanted to do another big kind of trade in there. And I know they traded all of their picks away, but they do have a couple extra picks. Now, they're not great picks because they may not they may not ever convey, but that's where it is.
And Julius Randle, $29 million this coming season, $31 million player option the next. So there was a long time there where people were talking about Julius Randle as this crazy negative contract. 2 years left on the deal tops right now. That it's not the same as if it was an expiring, but makes it more movable than it would have been, potentially last year before.
Yep.
Gary Trent Jr., we need to start going rapid fire through some of these. Gary Trent Jr. and Buddy Hield, can the Lakers get them? Yeah. Sure, in theory.
Sure. Yep.
And the question is that if you go to LeBron and you say, hey, we got Gary Trent Jr., does LeBron go, I want the max? Or does he say, cool, that's enough, I'll take the pay cut? I don't know. That's the
Gary
question.
Trent
When
Jr.
should I?
feels like right at the line for that
Yeah,
for me. Like
right.
that's like right at the line there. Like that's where
LeBron's
all
like,
right,
I'll
I'm
get back to
okay.
you.
Or
Let me
yeah,
think.
let me go have a sandwich and then I'll let you know.
What you have to do is you have to bring LeBron a bottle of wine, have a few glasses, and then tell him. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. While not saying, hey, we got to get ink in the printer before he can give Bronny his contract. Hold on. Like, where are we going with this?
When should I start getting impatient with the Lakers? We're not even 24 hours into free agency, so not yet.
Yeah,
not yet. It's too early.
If Clay comes off the board and DeRozan comes off the board and like a trade gets made for somebody you kind of like, then at that point I think you're like, whoa, all right, what are we doing here? You just don't want to see all the options fly off the board. Yeah, but
right.
Yeah, tomorrow maybe the kind of the earliest. So
what are the Lakers waiting for? Clay right now. That seems to be the thing. They're waiting to see what Clay's going to do.
The next show I start is going to be with a Charlotte Hornets fan. So there'll be like 2 Hornets questions and then we can just the rest of the league.
Game on the line, AD, Braun pick and roll with Clay, Cam Johnson, connect, Reeves, Christie spacing the floor. I mean, if you could put that roster together.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. Defense might be a little questionable in that group.
Might be. Yes.
But generally you're okay.
But if you're thinking an offensive possession. But do bird rights transfer with a sign and trade?
Yes. And yes. Yeah. The answer is yes.
Kevin Porter Jr. back in the NBA.
Clippers are like become like the halfway house for wayward NBA souls. Like they're just like, did we miss something in the CBA that they have to have a questionable character player on the roster at all times? Like if Kevin Porter makes it back, I will say this: I did not like the reporting around this of Kevin Porter Jr. with his he'll complete court-ordered training and then he'll switch to a no guilty or not guilty plea and then no criminal record and all these things. Like we don't need to do all that. People know what they know about this situation. I understand he may have got a little bit of a raw deal because then it never really went anywhere. And a lot of people said this didn't happen, including the girl involved with this to some extent. And police said there was inconsistencies in what they were told and what they saw and all these things. So I don't know. From a basketball standpoint, fine. He played pretty well in Greece at the end of last year. It was covered enough that he was allowed to leave, or again, covered's not the right way. It was okay enough, I guess, that he was allowed to leave the country to go work in Greece for the end of last season. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, if he makes it back, he makes it back. We'll see. I don't know why we're going to mention the girl getting waived. That's just stupid. Like you don't need to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to throw that in there at the end.
I didn't even know that's who that was. So because I haven't followed that closely enough, but
I only know because I remembered because it's a unique name. That's the only reason I remembered.
Tim said, who do you see the Knicks getting at backup center? I mean, maybe Goga. Like if I'm the Knicks, I'm putting the full press on him to see if I get it. Although there's rumors that like Orlando may have a decent size offer out to him. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They love him in Orlando. What Orlando doesn't want to do is if Wendell Carter misses games, they don't want to have to start Mo Wagner, assuming he's back. They like his energy, the way he plays off the bench. He does all the things he's always done. It's been with Mo Wagner, he's a top tier irritant, but more, right? Like he can do all those things that annoy you if you're the opponent, but he can also play. So then we get into a position with Goga. They like being able to slide him in as a starter and leave Wagner in that backup role. They experimented with Jonathan Isaac in the playoffs at the 5. I think will be more of a thing this year, but it's not going to be like a Jonathan Isaac starts at the 5. He just won't hold up. And they know how careful they need to be with him. So that's why I think they'd like to keep Goga if they can.
All right. Last one. Apparently it's a wrap.
Listen, Rob, you better do your job.
A Danny Granger reference.
Why you're moving like a sloth? Dropping bars.
The guy's the new Danny Granger.
Oh, I like it. Yeah. All right. Let's do the whole thing. Listen, Rob, you better do your job. I don't understand why you're moving like a sloth. Wait a non Clay. All I smell is danger. That guy is the new Danny Granger. What? With DMLE, you're frozen. Please get us DeMar DeRozan. I tweaked it because you had to hit the timing right on that.
Right. I've got the. This is Michael Scott. What was that?
Yes.
Lazy Scrand or whatever that was.
Yeah. Or Prison Mike.
Prison Mike. I like it. Studio Stu is on one. He wants lunch apparently. Matthew said, "You guys see the Lakers getting Miles Bridges is bad optics for LeBron to take a discount to sign him. I mean, he's a clutch sports guy, but I ultimately think he probably winds up getting more."
Yeah, I think no to both because that's it. I think he's going to want more money, and I don't think it's bad optics. I think it would be okay. I told you that they didn't have any stupid props, but I told you the show would get stupid.
We found a way.
Hey,
we
man,
found a way.
Thanks for our songwriter there, to giving me some bars to lay down. Is that a
all right? On that, before anything gets more insane, of course, if anything big happens the rest of the day, we'll the Spurs are targeting Nick Batum, according to Jake Fisher. Just came out.
Okay.
So there you go.
Right. Makes sense. Why not? Right. I like that the Spurs are trying to grow up a little bit, if that makes sense.
Right? Getting adults in the room.
Yeah, but bring a couple more older guys in that can really kind of come in and help guys out.
And Batum and Wemby.
Yeah. I mean, I think for them, it's not. This is because some people say, why Chris Paul? Is this really the whole idea of Wemby is pushing them to be a good team and compete right away? I don't think it's that. I think they just want to be more competitive in the like in games. Like I think they just would not necessarily that they need to win, make the postseason. I think they just want to play competitive basketball much deeper into the season than they did a year ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's call it for now. We'll see what else happens the rest of the day, but we do appreciate everybody being here. Make sure if you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. We'll see where things go from here. Already some fireworks since the last time we signed off, so who knows what happens. But again, if anything big goes down, we'll come back on and talk about it. Till then, everybody, see ya and stay safe.